Before Athens, before Sparta, before even the mythic echoes of Troy, a very different civilization flourished at the crossroads of land and sea. A world born of sunlight and salt, of olive trees twisted by the wind, of mountains rising and falling like the backs of ancient sleeping beasts. This is the story of the Minoans, the first great European civilization. On the island of Crete, where the Aegean is at its bluest and the land is green even in the heart of summer, the Minoans built a shining world. Their voices have faded, their script remains unread, but their art and architecture, their gods and their stories, left an echo that still whispers through time. Tonight, let us softly step back 5,000 years, past the shrouded mists of myth, to wander the gardens and silent halls of the lost world of the Minoans. Picture the island of Crete, ringed by the turquoise arms of the Mediterranean, its mountains veined with ancient rivers, its valleys gentle with fields of wheat and barley. In the dim age of stone, when most of Europe was icebound and forests endless, seafarers first came here. They arrived from Anatolia and the Levant, rowed by the moon and guided by the rising stars, landing on rocky shores with baskets of seeds, flocks of sheep, and the memory of distant homelands. By 7000 BCE, Neolithic farmers were carving out a new life on Crete. They built homes of stone and clay, clustered together for warmth and safety. At dusk, smoke curled from their hearths. By day, fields yielded barley, wheat, and olives. Women spun flax into thread and wove sturdy cloth, while men tended sheep and tilled the rocky earth. Generation by generation, the island's people learned its moods. They made pottery, simple grey or brown at first, then decorated with incised lines and swirling patterns. They created painted figures, perhaps gods or ancestors, hidden in caves sacred to the earth. Villages grew, Knossos, Phaistos, and later Malia, names that would echo throughout history. The Minoans, though we call them this only centuries later, were a people in communion with the land. They watched the swallows return each spring. They marvelled at seashells cast up by storms. In these millennia before palaces and kings, Crete was a tapestry of tiny communities, each with its own customs, kin, rites and festivals. Quiet, rhythmic and close to the cycles of nature, by 3100 BCE, a new dawn awaited. Across the Aegean, metal glinted, bronze, copper, gold, trade beckoned. The seeds of a civilization were sown. With the passing centuries, Crete awakens. By 2000 BCE, a span older than the epics of Homer, great palaces rise atop the fertile valleys and high plateaus. At Knossos, at Phaistos, at Malia and Zakros, stone walls, broad stairs, storage chambers dug into the earth, and courtyards ringed with columns painted in red ochre. These are not castles in the sense of war or conquest. The palaces of the Minoans are centres of life, administration, worship, and feasting. Their walls encircle not only the rulers and their families, but artisans, scribes, priests, and servants. In storerooms, as deep and silent as cellars, lie hundreds of enormous clay jars, or pithoi, filled with oil, wine, barley, or honey. Picture the palace at Knossos. It is a labyrinth, 3, possibly 4 stories high, with over 1,000 rooms linked by corridors twisting and doubling back. Light wells channel the harsh Cretan sun into cool, shaded halls. In the Megaron, the Great Hall, frescoes shimmer, leaping dolphins, women with flounced skirts and bare arms, red-painted bulls. These palaces are the heart, lungs and spine of Minoan society. From here, tribute and trade are managed. Here, the king, perhaps more priest than warlord, and his council organise festivals and ask blessings from the gods. Every spring, new harvests are weighed and tallied in storerooms. Scribes press styluses into clay tablets, inventing the scripts we call Cretan hieroglyphs, and later Linear A, a system of writing still lost to us. But the palaces are not only practical, they are deeply symbolic, a labyrinth not just of stone, but of myth and memory. Perhaps here began the story of Daedalus and his maze, of a Minotaur hidden deep within, of Ariadne's thread. Perhaps these stories are echoes of real rites, real mysteries that played out under torchlight, the sound of flute and drum echoing from stone walls. Walk softly through a Minoan town, let time slow, courtyards blossom in the sun. In the shade, women gather to grind grain and weave. Men carve wood, shape bronze into blades or fish hooks, or practice their pottery by the wheel. Children run through alleyways, laughing as they chase squealing piglets or splashing in fountains fed by ingenious aqueducts. Art here is not reserved for the elite. Every surface, every object seems to pulse with colour and movement. On walls, frescoes of young men and women vaulting over mighty bulls, their bodies arched in midair. On pottery, octopuses winding their tentacles, lilies unfurling, waves crashing, birds in flight. Jewellery glistens with gold and faience. Gems are carved into seals stamped with signs of power and protection. Music fills the air during festivals, lyres strummed softly at dusk, double pipes and drums calling dancers into sacred circles. At great processions, flower garlands drape over shoulders, and all parade to shrines deep in caves or high on mountain slopes. Minoan society, it seems, is unusually open. Women appear dignified, sometimes in prominent roles as priestesses or leaders. We see them in murals, poised and commanding, leading dances, pouring libations. Men and women wear vibrant woven clothes. Both adorn their hair, their bodies with jewellery. A day begins with sunrise glistening on fields of wheat and ends with lamps flickering in cool stone halls. Families gather for meals of barley cakes, goat cheese, olives, figs, honey and wine. Stories are told, songs sung. The world is abundant, and everyday life is artfully, joyfully lived. If art is everywhere, so too is the divine. The Minoans worship with all senses, in darkness and in daylight, in communal feasts and solitary prayers. Listen closely to the silence of a mountain shrine, the drip of water in a cave, the hush before a festival. The central figure is the great goddess, a mother, a protector, a giver of life. We see her likeness on small figurines, arms outstretched, serpents coiling in each hand. Around her, sacred animals, bull, dove, goat, lion. Each echoes her power, her mystery. Worship is intimate and dramatic. In springtime, cities gather for planting festivals, offerings of bread and honey, dances to awaken the earth. In autumn, the grape harvest brings song and wine, with sacrifices to ensure the returning sun. Some rites seem to centre on bull leaping, young men and women facing the massive Cretan bull, seizing its horns, flipping and twisting in feats that mix sporting courage and ritual awe. Was this a kind of athletic contest, or a myth enacted for the gods? We do not know. Sacred caves, some deep and moist with centuries of offerings, see torchlight flickering on stalagmites painted with ochre. Mountain-top sanctuaries, windswept and wild, host yearly rituals amid clouds and rock. The dead are honoured in beehive-shaped tombs. There are feasts for ancestors and for the family. Unlike later societies, burial seems communal, signs that all are bound in life and death. The world of the Minoans is alive, infused with the sacred at every turn. Each flower, each well, each stone is a threshold to divinity. Each festival is a time when gods and mortals draw close. Crete is never isolated. Its heart beats in time with distant shores. The Minoans build sturdy ships, broad-beamed, swift, powered by both sail and oar. On the purple Mediterranean, their fleets range as far as Egypt, Cyprus, Anatolia, the Levant. Merchant ships carry Cretan goods, pottery painted with marine motifs, oil and wine in amphorae, delicate ivory carvings, and metalwork of gold and bronze. In return, they bring home exotic treasures, copper from Cyprus, tin and gold from far-off lands, faience and scarabs from Egypt, spices, perfume and luxury goods. Crete grows wealthy, a crossroads for merchants, travellers and myths. Goods and ideas mingle. Egyptian lotus buds appear on Minoan frescoes. Aegean styles surface in distant palaces. Diplomats and envoys travel the sea lanes. Minoan artists are invited to decorate foreign palaces, their works found from the Greek mainland to the distant shores of Syria. From this blend arises a unique worldview, cosmopolitan, open-hearted, always curious. The Minoans are ocean people, sailors at dawn, traders and ambassadors, storytellers whose songs cross boundaries no map can draw. Even as their fame grows, the Minoans never appear to embrace conquest for its own sake. There are few walls or weapons in their settlements. Their strength is in harmony, with land, with sea, with their neighbours. But with all this brilliance there comes enigma, the greatest, their writing. On palace walls, seal stones, and thousands of clay tablets, the Minoans inscribe a script linear A. It flows with beauty and purpose, but its meaning, lost to us for over 3,000 years. What do these marks say? List of tribute and trade, prayers to gods, rituals of the dead? We do not know. We read the later Mycenaean script linear B, and so can guess the Minoans track taxes, goods, and festivals much the same way. But linear A stands silent, a locked door. Archaeologists find carefully pressed tablets in palace storerooms, rows of sign that must have meant so much, tallies of oil and grain, names of officials or gods, perhaps poetry or law. Yet the language is unknown, related to none that survive. The Minoans keep their secrets. Their stories, heroes, journeys, romances are forever hidden, just out of reach. Even so, these scripts remind us, the ancients were not voiceless. They sought, as we do, to mark memories, to count what mattered, to preserve what would otherwise be swept away by wind and sea. Around 1600 BCE, the world changes forever. Far to the north, on the island later called Thera, modern Santorini, a volcano broods under the earth. Then, in one day, or perhaps several, it explodes. The sky blackens with ash. A tidal wave races across the sea, smashing into the northern shores of Crete. Palaces are shrouded in dust, fields and villages destroyed. For years, harvests fail, and the sun returns only weekly. The Minoans stagger, rebuild, and go on, but something is broken. Their world, so open, so confident, can never be quite the same. From this moment of weakness, new powers rise. From the north and west, the Mycenaeans, warrior chiefs from the Greek mainland, wearing their own gold and carrying new gods, come to Crete. By 1450 BCE, the ancient palaces, except Knossos, are abandoned or burned. Mycenaean rulers install themselves as lords over the land. Linear B now replaces the silent linear A. The art, the language, the very spirit of the Minoans is slowly overgrown, like ivy swallowing a ruin. Yet life continues for a time. Knossos remains inhabited, a final flicker of the old world. But by 1200 BCE, as the Bronze Age collapses across the eastern Mediterranean, the palaces fall silent forever. The laughter of festivals, the music of flutes is gone. Darkness covers the old halls, deeper than night. But the Minoans are not forgotten, not fully. In the myths of Greece they rise anew. King Minos, just and terrible, son of Zeus and Europa, judge of the dead. Ariadne with her thread, guideth Theseus through the labyrinth, where a monstrous Minotaur waits, half man, half bull, imprisoned at the heart of the palace. Daedalus, cunning builder, fashions wings of wax so his son can flee to freedom, only to fall from the sky. Much later, when Greek and Roman writers describe Crete, they speak of power, of wonder, of ancient majesty, never grasping the reality beneath the stories. For millennia, the ruins at Knossos lie buried beneath orchards and wildflowers. Until in 1900, Sir Arthur Evans, a man obsessed with myth and mystery, begins to excavate. His spades unearth the walls, the frescoes, the pots and pythoi. He names this civilization Minoan, after the legendary Minos. What he finds is staggering. Colourful murals, hundreds of tablets, jewellery, household treasures from a world lost even to legend. Here is proof at last that Europe's first great civilization flourished here, in sun-drenched Crete 5,000 years before our time. Today, as the sun sets over the hill of Knossos, the olive trees still sway, and shepherds call their flocks home. Among the ruins, we walk where the Minoans walked, touch the stones they shaped, see the patterns they painted. Their language is lost, their stories mostly erased, and yet their spirit survives in the broken fresco, the painted cup, the vivid thread of legend that weaves through us all. The Minoans remind us that civilizations can glitter, vanish, and leave only whispers. They remind us that even what is forgotten can shape us, in art, in myth, in the enduring mystery that draws us back, time and again, to the wonders of the ancient world. Thank you for joining this long journey into the heart of Crete and the soul of the Minoans. May their story, half known and wholly beautiful, settle gently on your mind as the night falls, a memory shining quietly after the world's end.